Hi, my name is Megan and I will be debating the topic on whether or not students should wear uniforms or not. And I am for the students to wear uniforms for several reasons. From experience, I went to a private school for about 5 years and I learned firsthand on why it's essential for students to wear uniforms. The first reason why students should wear uniforms in school is because uniforms are cost effective. Parents that do not have a high income do not have to keep buying their kids new clothes to keep up with the newest trends. Also, in schools that do not require uniforms, the social norm is that children are always having to not wear the same outfit, which is not okay. So if people were to wear uniforms, then they wouldn't have to worry about the cost of how much the newest jeans are or how much the newest shoes are. In addition to uniforms being cost effective for financially distraught families, it also deletes social status within the student body. This is again because people who do not have extra money to buy their children new clothes, they will not be looked down at for not having the latest trendy clothes. Parents will not have to worry about giving their children extra money to go buy 7 jeans or True Religion jeans or Nike shoes or anything that has to do with the latest trend. I think that children should only wear uniforms because it's going to help out their parents financially, and that they will not have to worry about fitting in within like a certain class of people just because they have the highest money or the highest trendiest type of jeans or t-shirts. Another reason why students should wear uniforms because it enforces a strict dress code. This is because uniforms are meant for everybody to look the same. So if in schools that do not require dress code, girls are allowed to wear tank tops that show their cleavage and skirts that will be able to show off their bums, which is not good for people who do not believe in showing that off for certain religious reasons and for morals. For boys in dress codes, men should not be able to wear shirts that say things about girls and nasty stuff about sex. I think that altogether uniforms are good because it's going to enforce a strict dress code, which will keep everybody on the same page and make everybody look the same. The last reason that students should wear uniforms is because it makes a student body look like a group instead of individuals. Growing up, I went to a high school where you didn't have to wear uniforms, and people were constantly looking at each other and trying to up each other on what they're wearing and would judge each other based off of like their materialistic ways. But honestly, I think that uniforms can create a student bond because they will not have to worry about who's wearing the trendiest clothes, and if you're wearing a really ugly shirt, someone's going to say that you're poor. And honestly, that has nothing to do with it. Uniforms will be able to eliminate this type of social structure, and it's going to make everybody bond together as one group.
My name is Aubrie, and I am arguing against school uniforms. Today's school system is composed of smaller systems that ensure uniformity. This includes structured methods of teaching, rewarding, and disciplining. All of this structure leaves little room for self-expression. Because of this, I believe schools should not enforce uniform policies because it takes away the individuality of the student. Schools not only teach students scholarly information, but they also develop the students into unique individuals. A major part of individuality is self-expression, and uniforms take that away. Uniforms ensure that everyone looks the same. This is an unrealistic expectation when each student is a unique individual. They come from different backgrounds where they develop various preferences and values. Therefore, they should be allowed to express themselves rather than being forced to look like everyone else. People argue that uniforms are more cost-effective, but this is not true. According to statisticbrain.com, the average cost of school uniforms is $249. This is $249 worth of clothes that will not be worn places other than school. Clothing that is not part of uniforms can be worn to extracurricular activities and outside of school events. With uniforms, parents will be forced to buy clothing for both inside and outside of school. Students are not improved nor hindered by a lack of uniform policy because uniforms do not improve the student as a person. A student will not be able to understand geometry better or worse because they are wearing a collared shirt with their school's logo on it as opposed to their favorite sports team. A student will not say no to drugs when they're an adult because they grew up wearing a school uniform, and a student will not volunteer at a hospital because they wore a school uniform. A uniform will not give a student a better work ethic and encourage them to study as opposed to playing video games because these are all internal qualities that cannot be changed by external appearances. Students will resort to other methods of self-expression if they are forced to dress a certain way. Unfortunately, this could lead to rebelling against authority and acting out. This is not to say that uniforms cause students to become criminals, but the added force structure is not healthy to a child that is constantly being told what to do in every other aspect of their life. Some also argue that a lack of uniform pressures students to fit in by wearing certain brands, but the whole idea of uniform is based off the belief that everyone needs to fit in with each other. Uniforms will not decrease the prevalence of cliques and bullying in schools because students will always find a way to pick on others, whether it is because of their race, weight, height, and so on. LibertarianLogic.com describes uniforms as punishing all students with a one-size-fits-all mentality because the amount of students that are gang members or drug dealers is a small percentage in comparison to the entire student body. Instead of trying to blend the students in with their peers, we should help them in ways that will lead them along the right path. In society, diversity is something that should be embraced and celebrated rather than masked by uniformity. Parents often ask their children, if all your friends jumped off a bridge, would you do the same? They teach their children to say no to that question because they want them to make their own individual decisions rather than ones based off of others. I relate this to uniforms because uniforms teach students that they must do the same as their peers. I do agree that dress codes that regulate the length of shorts or whether or not a shirt that degrades women is necessary because that may be distracting or offensive to others. But that does not mean that a full uniform that homogenizes the appearance of all students is necessary. School is a place where children will develop into teens and eventually adults. Through the years, they acquire their own beliefs and goals. Not every child is the same, so they should not be forced to look the same. School is not a workforce where people are assigned a job and that is their life. Because of this, they should be given the opportunity to express themselves when they have the chance to. Clothing is not harmful to students, so it should not be treated as something to take away from them. Thanks.
Aubrie, you said that uniforms are at least going to cost $249, but I do not think that's accurate because children are going to have to wear a different piece of clothing every single day, and depending on where they get it, which if they're trying to fit in and be with the popular group, then it's going to at least be up to like a shirt that will be at least $50 and their jeans will be $100, it's $150, and say they don't want to wear the same exact thing every single day, then they're going to have to multiply that every single day for the whole entire year, and that's going to be a lot of monies, which is going to be more than $249. Aubrie, you says students will resort to other forms of self-expression like getting in trouble and forcing their way into certain criminal actions because of uniforms. I honestly do not think that makes sense because if students are given a certain regime and are always told to act a certain way and look a certain way, they're not going to learn how to act like a criminal based off of what they wear. I think that honestly that the uniform is actually going to help them mold them into a better person because they're going to have to follow a certain standard and a certain way, which will help them later in life. Aubrie, you said that students will resort to different self-expression like getting in trouble and going against the authorities who are saying that you have to wear the uniform. I do not think that is correct because individuals who are wearing uniforms are always forced and told to wear a certain thing, which would help them later in life. Like when you're working for a certain company, they tell you that you need to wear a certain tie, you need to wear a certain shirt and shoes. Or if you're working for, say, McDonald's, you have to wear a certain shirt. That's a uniform. So in the future, if they're going to have to wear a certain uniform, they're going to follow those rules, and they're not just going to rebel against them just because they want to wear a cool tank top to McDonald's to work. Like, that does not make sense.